there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Due to popular demand, today I'm going to be talking about buy lists and why you should be using buy lists. Now, let me preface this with saying when I started this channel, or started at least doing the Market Monday years ago, it has been more geared towards trading. I'm a huge advocate of trading, as until you're ready to sell out your collection, I still think the best bang for your buck, especially if you live in an area that's heavily populated, is to be trading. That way you can avoid getting hit with the fees both on buying and selling. A lot of times there's fees associated with both, and you can keep your equity all in the trade value of the cards, and then when you're ready to sell off, that's the best way to do it. However, you should be utilizing both buying and selling via buying on websites like TCG Player and selling to various buy lists, because your cards are a lot more liquid than trying to find trades at the right time. Again, I prefer the trade method. I prefer going that road to try to get as much bang for your buck, but when that is not an option or you need to get rid of cards, this buy listing is extremely important. So on my channel, I talk about the spread a lot. The spread is the difference between the highest buy list and the lowest sell point. So that's what we call a spread, and sometimes there's a negative spread. And negative spread means that you can actually buy a card for cheaper that then you can go and sell the card or buy list the card. And so that's, of course, really important, especially when the spread is almost negative, to be able to anticipate a spike in the value of a card. So talk about this all the time. Hopefully this video will explain more in the ins and outs of this. There is a service that does this, that simplifies the spread, which is called Quiet Speculation. Quiet Speculation I highly do recommend. I am not sponsored by them. I have had offers in the past, but that was kind of, the sponsorship was supposed to go down during the whole Magic the Gathering drama where I was already losing sponsorships. So I have a no sponsor policy right now. I do not take sponsorships. When I like a service like Quiet Speculation or Cards Fair, I'll definitely give my opinion on them. But as of right now, I just think that there's just such a toxic element in Magic the Gathering with just the way the culture works, that I don't want to go down that road of getting sponsored, getting threatened, and all that nonsense. So right now I'm independently funded, independently operated, and I don't take sponsorships. However, Quiet Speculation is a very, very good site for being able to look at the spread. They have a lot of resources available to even just search cards or search buy list vendors. To every day you can get kind of this little buy list increase, and you can take away the foils and limit it to different sets. This is just a powerhouse of data here with Quiet Speculation. One of these days I'll have to get on the Quiet Speculation guys to go over their service more in depth. However, you can see that they also have a lot of vendors that are affiliated with them that let them basically crawl their data every day. There are some sites like the Star City Games that have not allowed sites to do this. I don't know why a site would not let a service like the Quiet Speculation crawl their data. I think it was the big reason why Star City Games quit doing that, is they realized that they were above and beyond the worst sell and the worst buy. So I'm going to talk about the buy list vendors that I've actually have used, but just keep in mind there are other options than the ones I'm going to talk about. I don't feel that I can give a good analysis on buy lists that I have not used. I am going to talk about Abu Games because I do have patrons that have used Abu Games, and this one is something that is highly recommended. Again, I have not used them, and therefore I can't give a personal account of them. So yeah, you can check out all of these, and there usually is one vendor that will be higher on one thing, but usually I like to look at a full package thing, and I'll be talking about why that is. Time is money, and why there's definitely a service that is above and beyond for buy listing that I highly recommend. So anyway, Quiet Speculation you can check over here. Here's an example of how it works. Rise of the Dark Realms, it's a card that I spec'd into around the $15 mark, looking to see when there's a good time to get out of it. It looks like the highest buy list price right now is Card Kingdom, and the highest sell price, of course, is Card Kingdom as well. And the TC mark is around $15.41. That's a little bit inaccurate because these are all heavy played or above, and there definitely is not 99 quantity of the of near mint or lightly played at this sort of price. So keep that in mind. The market price right now for Rise of Dark Realms is around, I would say, $18 on TCG Player. But then it gives a lot of other lists, like the Strike Zone has bumped theirs up to 14. They want 12 of them. You can look down at MG Seattle, Mythic Games, Abu Games, and whatnot. So there's more that goes into this, though. A lot of these sites have trade-in, which is what I like about Card Kingdom. They do a 30% towards other purchases. Places like Abu Games will give a 50% towards the purchase of singles and like a 15% towards the purchase of sealed product. And even like Channel Fireball will have like a 30% trade in. So let's start off with I'm going to rank these in order of good or of bad to good. So the first buy list that I highly, highly discourage anyone from using is TCG Player. So I have a love-hate relationship with TCG Player, a mostly hate relationship, because I think that they are crowding out the space of a product that could exist that would actually be run better than how TCG Player runs their site. Now, TCG Player is kind of the gold standard for buying cards. It is by far if you want a card, it's the easiest place to find the cheapest price. There are a bazillion different vendors to buy cards from, and they've expanded this also to what they call the TCG Player trade-in to then get either money or credit towards other purchases via buy listing your cards to these different vendors. Now, TCG Player does this on your behalf. They grade the cards, and then so you ship the package to TCG Player. They make sure the grading is right, and then they either give you the store credit or the money themselves. Now, this is where I have the biggest problem with TCG Player from experience. I have done a ton of both selling and buy listing on TCG Player, and I pretty much have quit using it unless it's a last resort. So we do use it for our local game store here when, of course, we just need to sell cards because buy lists are not offering them at a decent price, or something I've done with TCG Player too is we've put things up at an incredibly high, like I'd say 40-50% higher than what the market price is currently going for, and if it sells, it sells. Now, the biggest problem that I have with TCG Player on their seller end of it is the fees are just absolutely horrid. The minimums are bad. The burden of the proof of if cards were received to the actual destination is on the store. A lot of times they still don't even care if you track the package. It says it got to the destination. TCG Player doesn't care. They always side on the side of the buyer, which I think is quite problematic. I think they need a better investigation team. And again, it is just such a place to buy cards for the player, and in my opinion is a terrible place for vendors to go to actually sell cards. Their buy list is even worse. So this is a pet peeve of mine. You can't have your cake and eat it too is kind of the expression. TCG Player is not very good at grading cards when they send you cards, and they're absolutely grading Nazis when they receive cards. So they're very hypocritical with that. I've had some horror stories with TCG Player with a couple of different cards. The most recent one is Sulphur Falls. We buy listed a bunch of them to TCG Player Direct for the Sulphur Falls. They were all pristine. All of them were beautiful. Near mint is near mint, never seen play, and TCG Player rejected them. And I'm thinking it's because they had some little insider information that they were going to be in the Challenger decks, but again, that's speculation for another day. I can't prove it. That's just my speculation of why they rejected them, and they sent them all back. Same thing about rotation. They, I think, forgot to take down, or there were just some inventory discrepancies with the Transgress the Mind. So I like to bring up this Transgress the Mind because I bought from TCG Player Direct a bunch of copies of Transgress the Mind, and then when they shot up in value, tried to buy list them back to TCG Player, and they rejected all of them. The funniest thing about them was they were still in the same package, they usually ship them in like a penny sleeve. They were still in the same package that was shipped to me. Hadn't even gone out of the package, and they rejected them on conditioning. So that reason, I do not recommend TCG Player. I've had headaches beyond headaches beyond headaches with this service, and I am just desperate for another service to come and take over what TCG Player kind of does. So I like the fact that TCG Player is both a one-stop shop for both buying and selling, and it is driven by actual stores and users and not just one company doing it. I think that we have a big need for this in the Magic the Gathering world, for having just this one-stop shop. However, this is just not a company that I have a lot of faith in, a lot of trust in, and again, just horrible experience after horrible experience has put a very, very sour taste in my mouth with the TCG Player buy list. However, buying from different vendors on TCG Player is still probably your best route because, like I said, all the fees, all the shipping, all the burden is on the seller, which makes it a very good buyer's market, but it would be nice to have it go both ways. All right, so let's talk about Abu Games. I'm going to rate this as a neutral because I personally have never used it. I have some patrons that actually swear by Abu Games because of this 50% store credit and the fact that Abu Games can actually be the cheapest vendor oftentimes for particular cards. So apparently they grade quick, they PayPal you quick, or send you a check very, very quickly. And the store credit for 15% can be used for anything for sealed product is actually quite lucrative too when they do have deals on the sealed products. I hear their grading isn't terrible. I have had some people tell me that there have been some grading issues. However, from what I've heard from people that I do trust, this is a very good service to use. They usually want basically everything, so that's important too when I'm going to be talking about time is money. And a store like Abu Games that has a very wide array of cards that they buy is often better than trying to piece them out. One thing you can do with Quiet Speculation, by the way, is you can put in your entire collection and it will price it out and actually will tell you piles to put it in. They have this thing called the Ion Scanner, which is actually a camera so you can buy this like camera, and it will basically grade all of your cards. It'll try to grade them and put them in packages for the best buy list packages to send to each one of these vendors. If you're looking to definitely save time, this is also a pretty cool service that I'm going to have to look into. And I'm going to have to rate it. I'm going to have to review it here in the future. One of these days I'll get my act together and actually start reviewing these type of services. So anyway, Abu Games, though, is definitely something you should keep on your arsenal. I've heard only good things about it and occasionally a few bad things about it. And usually the transactions are painless and fast, which is very, very important. Let's go to Channel Fireball. Channel Fireball is a buy list I have used in the past. They have good customer service. It's quick. The payment process is painless, and I had no problem with it. You have the 30% store credit bonus, which is pretty good because Channel Fireball is usually the lowest vendor by far. I've bought from Channel Fireball a lot because they are usually when I buy from Channel Fireball, it's through TCG Player. I'll see their lowest price. You come over here to Channel Fireball, they'll still have those cards in stock. You use the 7% off coupon, you get 7% off that purchase. And it's a very good vendor to buy from. The only problem that I have with Channel Fireball is they're pretty low for their buy list cards. So that's kind of what you have to expect, though. If they're going to be the cheapest vendor on the internet, you got to think that they're also going to be one of the ones that offer the cheapest for them. But then again, look at these. Sometimes they actually do have some pretty decent spreads for what they're willing to buy versus what they're what they actually sell it for themselves. So you absolutely should keep in mind Channel Fireball and kind of use it as a comparison. They also do have a wide offers. They buy a lot of different cards. However, that's where I think the spread is the biggest. So on some things they offer quite a good deal on. Lowever, if you're trying to get a complete package to Channel Fireball, it's often more time consuming, and the lowballing on a lot of the cards that you do want to buy list makes it so it's like, I can send these 5 cards for good for Channel Fireball, but these 20 cards are just better to go somewhere else. So for that reason, Channel Fireball is one that I do use. I haven't used in a while, but is definitely, I've had nothing but positive experiences, great customer support. The 30% store credit bonus is awesome if I'm looking to then use Channel Fireball to spec in future cards. Channel Fireball does seem to have a very good ebb and flow of rotation's a great time to speculate in on commander cards, for example, from Channel Fireball. You always see any sort of standard card that rotates that saw competitive play but is still good for commander. Usually they have a big blowout sale about rotation. You can pick those cards up, and those are great places to spec, especially with the 7% off. If you got the 30% in-store credit, I'm sure that the Channel Fireball kind of credit game is something that is actually viable. Like, we'll talk about what we call the Card Kingdom game, credit game, here in a second. So let's go on to my old sponsor, Cool Stuff Inc. No vendetta here, use them a lot. This is just coming from a place of my own experience. I used to use Cool Stuff Inc. to buy list cards just because I was incredibly loyal to them for kind of sponsoring me. However, I have had very negative things with Cool Stuff Inc. in the past. They suffer from the same thing as TCG Player. They aren't very strict graders when they send you the cards. However, they are grading Nazis when they accept the cards. So that's kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. We've had some packages returned without any explanation. Some of them have said that they are no longer currently buying them, but they don't update their actual buy list. We had an entire package. Now, this wasn't necessarily Magic the Gathering cards exclusively. I think it was some Pokemon and Dice Masters at the time when they were buying Dice Masters, and they sent back an entire package, and we were like left scratching our head because it was still up on their buy list that they still wanted these cards. No explanation. So again, that's had some negative experiences, had some good experiences with them. They tend to be pretty low comparatively for their buy list to other vendors. However, they do have a great credit process. Like the more you buy from Cool Stuff, the greater discounts that you get from them, all the way up to, I believe, 15% off on singles if you spent a lot of money. The other thing that I like about Cool Stuff Inc. is the credit is used store-wide, and oftentimes they have Magic the Gathering products like sealed product at a huge discount. I was able to buy Fate Reforged boxes at $80 a box at one point. Same thing with the Oath of Gatewatch. And if you're buy listing cards to them and getting that in-store credit, which is, I believe, 30%, I'll have to check again, with Cool Stuff Inc., and then using it towards rotated boxes like Oath of Gatewatch or Fate Reforged, I think that's a pretty good trade. So, I mean, you're getting higher value for your cards and getting booster boxes at relatively cheap. So that's what's the positive about Cool Stuff Inc. I don't think you can find a sealed product vendor as cheap as Cool Stuff Inc. They usually have new inventory that comes in. You just have to keep checking back on their prices. They'll do sales around holidays and in the height of the summer, the height of other seasons, rotation and things like that, which can make this very lucrative. However, just be warned, I have had some not so positive experiences with the grading, with the lack of communication and the customer service. All right, so that leads us on to my second favorite buy list, and this is CardSphere. Yes, I'm calling this a buy list because that's generally how it works. If you haven't ever used CardSphere, how CardSphere works is if you want to be a buy list yourself, you put all the cards that you do want in this want section. So you just add cards. So I've got a ton of wants myself, just tons and tons of cards that I've put up as my own personal buy list. You set the price that you want to buy them at, and then people send you the cards. And then the exact opposite works. If you want to send a card, you just click on this little sending function, and you can send. Oops, that's not the right one. You can click on this sending function, and you can put what hide offers under a certain amount, exclude packages under a certain amount. I've done whole videos on how to use CardSphere. It's a great place to then send off cards that you want to sell, but keep in mind that this is basically money that you're going to be using for other cards, but they do have a cash out fee of 10%, which is pretty reasonable actually if you actually want to hoard out a bunch of cards, sell a bunch of cards to these various players, and then actually cash out. It's very painless to do so through CardSphere. I can't say enough good things about CardSphere. I absolutely love the leadership. I'm very, very much close friends with the leaderships now after getting to know them over these few years. They are highly ethical. The transactions are incredibly painless. I've spent a lot of money on CardSphere, but there is one kind of thing that keeps me from using CardSphere more than I use other buy lists, and that's the pricing is incredibly low, especially when people dictate their own prices. It feels that if you're going to be using this for cash, and even a lot of times for just trading directly for cards, that I actually, despite what Ted or Efren says, they've done breakdowns and videos, I still think there is one better place to kind of play the buy list game. I can't say enough good things about CardSphere. I've used the service a lot. I've put in thousands of dollars because it's just a great place to become a buy list. However, I rarely send cards. The only people that I send cards to these days are basically patrons. What I have over at my Patreon is a CardSphere guarantee. If you're a patron of mine, I will send you cards at 86% value. But I mean, of course, subject to things spiking and cards that I'm currently specking on myself, but I don't really send other cards because even at 86%, oftentimes there will be another vendor that is paying higher than the Card Kingdom 86% value. However, this is still a really good place to do so. The other thing that I think is a lot easier from the last vendor I'm going to talk about is it's hard to come up with like a package oftentimes that is worthwhile. Time is money. If you don't want to be spending all day sorting through packages, waiting for people to confirm prices. There's a big like lag between sending cards on CardSphere and actually receiving the money to resend. It's all based on a lot of factors that the various users have to confirm it. But again, don't let that dissuade you from using the service. As a buy list, there is no better place. Again, I've spent thousands upon dollars being a buy list myself on CardSphere. I've actually sent quite a bit of cards myself on CardSphere as well. You should utilize it. I probably should be utilizing it more than I have in the last year or so. However, it's just because I've been able to me personally be able to vend the cards better than usually going through CardSphere. But if you are trying to get into the MTG Finance kind of trading, buying, selling, you have to use CardSphere. CardSphere is a must at this point. I called it a game changer. It still is a game changer. I personally think that it is the sole reason why the spread of a lot of these cards recently has gone razor thin, because it's been such a competitor with these other buy list vendors and TCG Player and eBay to get cards in the hands of players and circumventing that whole buy list, sell list process going through vendors. But again, despite what Efren and despite what Ted says, I think there is one better place that is just less of a headache and has amazing customer service. And if you are looking to just absolutely get out of cards and either turn them into store credit or into a very easy cash transaction, it is Card Kingdom. Now, this is saying a lot when I talk about Card Kingdom, because I've talked about this in the past. I don't personally like the company myself. If you're going to do a video on the pink tax, you're going to lose me. You're going to inject politics into your culture, into your company, you're going to lose me. However, the thing that is most sacred out of all sacredness of anything in the world is money. The good old American dollar, the most bang for your buck. That is the most ethical, sacred thing. Money is the root of all good, and Card Kingdom is the best way to get money into your hands, and it's the best way to use what we call the Card Kingdom game. Now, Card Kingdom has a razor thin spread oftentimes compared to the other market value. Now, it's because they sell cards, popular cards, at an outrageous price. I would never, ever use Card Kingdom for EDH staples. It's just absolutely ridiculous to be buying cards at that price. The people that do buy from Card Kingdom is because they want to support the channel Card Kingdom has, or support the vendor, because they support a ton of major players like the Command Cast, like Tolarian Community College, like Magic Man Sam, like Scryfall, like EDH Rec. They've done sponsorships with these huge creators, and it leads to just enormous amount of traffic, and that's how they're able to sell cards at such a high price. Now, that also makes them more competitive for their buy list, and by far there is no better place to buy list commons. A lot of times you can get absolutely garbage commons that you can buy list to Card Kingdom, as well as taking the Rise of the Dark Realms example. It is by far the highest buy list currently, and after doing the research after research, Rise of the Dark Realms, I rarely, you can name any card in Magic. Rarely, you can come over here and use the Quiet Speculation service, and let's just bring in any cards. Let's see here. Let's find another Commander staple here. Let's go the, what is that? Asceticism? Now I can't even think of the cards. Let's go Paradox Engine then. This is a card that is going crazy right now. Paradox Engine. We come over here. I bet you Card Kingdom will be the highest buy list price for it. We come over here. Card Kingdom paying 24, then MC Shadow at 21. You can do this over and over and over again, and this will always be the highest vendor's Card Kingdom. So why is that so good? Because it ends up being a one-stop shop. It ends up being one package with one customer, with one paycheck, or one turn it into store credit. I did it with Arclight Phoenix. Instead of trying to sell, I tried to shop around my Arclight Phoenixes. I was going to sell them out at $20, and then lo and behold, Card Kingdom had a turn into store credit for, I believe, like $26.50, and that was just a lot easier for me to do for a card like Arclight Phoenix, and then use it to buy popper cards. That's another thing I want to talk about. There is that misconception. Yes, I just said that Card Kingdom is usually the highest vendor for singles, with an exception. A lot of times Card Kingdom is actually the cheapest on new standard cards and popper cards. So what I figured out is Card Kingdom is is not an algorithmic based, but is just an automated based vendor. When they're selling cards, they increase the price. When they're not selling cards, they decrease the price until it finds that sweet spot. Well, this can be exploited. There are the natural waves in the market with how people purchase Magic the Gathering cards. Typically, end of summer is really, really good for Commander, and early spring and late winter is usually really, really good for Modern. Rotation time is really good to buy cards a lot of times because everyone's getting out of them and not buying them. So if you're an automated based service where you're pricing your cards based upon if people are buying them or selling them, it is oftentimes that Card Kingdom will be 50, 60, 70% cheaper on Modern cards, on popper cards, on even standard cards than the TCG player market price. So again, this is why I like this service so much, is because not only have I buy listed a ton of cards to Card Kingdom, I have then bought basically the majority of my popper cards, because by the time you avoid having to get 1,000 different packages from eBay or TCG Player, or it's hard to find a $2 package for popper. You can find maybe an 18-cent card on popper, on TCG Player, but it's 25 cents from Card Kingdom. That's a lot easier to do to fulfill these big packages. So in this day and age, I've rarely actually used Card Kingdom to cash out of money. I've instead used the 30% and then bought cards at their lows on Card Kingdom. And that's why I think right now, it's just, as far as playing that game, it's better than playing the Card Sphere game of trying to send cards, add a value to your Card Sphere account, and then receive cards from other people, because there's just, like I said, that lag in between. You can't guarantee that people are going to send you cards at a certain value, and you can't guarantee that you're going to be able to send a card at a certain value. This shouldn't dissuade you from using CardSphere, though. Like I said, CardSphere is still the gold standard of a platform of peer-to-peer. However, I wish that CardSphere would put the other end of the spectrum and allow trusted sites to put their own sell cards that then people can actually do a cart checkout. When that happens, I think this will be the perfect service. But from now, it's CardSphere. I think I do a lot more of this buying, selling through one place, and that is Card Kingdom at the moment. CardSphere, in short, put money into CardSphere. If you can find good packages to send, it's a great place to park money and then lowball offers. And if people have cards to send to you, like I've just got some screaming deals before on CardSphere, like Buried Alive for 25 cents. Good luck finding that anywhere else. You can look down here with even like Psychic Corrosions. That's hard to find at TCU at this price. A lot of these cards you can just lowball 41, 51%, and it takes a while. You just have to use the scatter shot approach, and you can become a buy list yourself through Card Kingdom. Card Kingdom, I still think CardSphere. CardSphere still, the players grade cards and send cards in better packages by far than TCG Player. That's another point of contention I have with TCG Player. I think the players themselves on CardSphere are a lot better at sending packages than some minimum wage employee that works for a vendor, works for a local game store is. I have received the most horrendously graded, horrendously packaged packages from TC Player vendors that have over 50,000 trades or sales. So it makes me scratch my head that these are supposed to be the professionals, and the lay person is doing a much better job through services like CardSphere. So again, I hope this is helpful to you. If there's any specific questions in the comment section about buy listing, maybe I can address them. Maybe I'll get on some other MTG Finance people that use buy list more than I do. Again, one of the reasons I don't, I'm a local game store myself. I have that outlet to sell cards directly to consumer, which a lot of people don't have that option. I also am a quite prolific, well, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit. I am at least a medium-sized YouTuber. I have quite the following, and if I do want to sell cards, usually I can just tweet out or find a person that actually wants to buy a card at a better value than usually buy list. But for some people, that option is not there. And it doesn't mean that it's not lucrative or it's something you still can't do. You can be very successful speculating on cards and then buy listing them when they go up in value. I've done it multiple times with cards like Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger that I got in like $4. And I did sell them out at $12. So that was a pretty bad sale, but buying it at $4 and buy listing it at $12, that's a 300% increase. That's pretty good. And I've done it also with like the Arclight Phoenix, got it at $2 to $2.50 and sold it about $26.50 store credit, I believe is what I got, and then used all of that money on Card Kingdom to get sealed product and a bunch of popper cards, which is a good trade transaction for me. So you should be utilizing this. You shouldn't be intimidated by buy lists, and it's definitely you should keep in your arsenal. So any questions in the comment section below. Speaking of selling cards, I am going to be doing a video for a Gone Roger. It's been a long time since I've done a Gone Roger. We have a lot of plans for the store. I'm actually looking to get some interns from our high school to teach them video editing. I am right at that threshold on our Patreon. I promised that at $750 on Patreon, I'd start the third channel, which is going to be strictly brews. It's only going to be rogue brews and budget brews, and I'm going to get back to brewing. I've been out of kind of the Magic the Gathering scene, but I know people like my methodology of brewing decks. I know that people have had to go elsewhere recently for juicy brews and stuff like that, and I have promised my patrons that I will get back to brewing, and it's just something that I need to free up some capital. I need to actually get some other editors to help me out with the workload, and all that entails some investments that I'm going to have to do. I'm looking to get another editing computer. We need to remodel the store so we can actually fit and add another editing space. I'll show you that in the video. And we have some other pursuits that we want to take on. So we have a lot of overstock in singles. Still have to get my buddy's roof fixed. I know that was something we did clear back in December. The roof is fixed, but now the bill is coming to a close here, and my buddy's gonna have to actually fork that up, and so we do have to sell the remaining of his singles as well to get him back on track. So anyway, we'll be looking for that. So if you are looking for cards to actually buy and want to help out the channel, we'll be selling a bunch of cards here shortly. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder for Rogue Market. For the Market Monday. Thanks for watching.